It had barely been a day since it happened. The kingdom of Lordaeron was hopelessly lost. Prince Arthas had betrayed humanity, slain his father, and subjected the capital city to a brutal bloodbath. Baron Gerard Marrogar, a noble of notable importance from Stormwind, was in Scholomance, attending his last lesson for the day. His tutor, Vectus, was lecturing his class about his long-awaited experiment that involved testing plague strains on black dragonflight whelps soon to be imported by contacts in the Burning Steppes. Gerard could barely contain his frustration and boredom. The skeletal teacher droned on and on, while Gerard couldn't help thinking about his plans for after the class. Him and his associate student Selendre had planned long and prepared longer for the moment that would see them elevated to new heights within the Lich King's new world order. Vectus lectured on. Gerard marveled at how far he had come. He remembered being sent to Caer Darrow at a young age to learn the art of statesmanship so as to strengthen ties between the Marrogar and Barov families, whereas his brother Cedric had been inducted into the Order of the Silver Hand, which would grant the Marrogar family a strong influence in the Kingdom of Lordaeron. Gerard had seen through the greed and the power-mongering of the noble houses through the tutelage of Alexei Barov, and had learned to revile the honorless and corrupt landowners for their manipulation of the common man. Gerard did get along well with the Barov children, however he alienated Alexei Jr. and Weldon when he tried to convince them of their family's mistreatment of their own people. Only Jandis seemed to understand him, and they grew up to be close friends, even after Jandis left for mage training in Dalaran. Despite Gerard's hatred of nobles, he was nonetheless devastated when he heard of his family's end at the hands of the Orcish horde that ransacked Stormwind in the First War. They were corrupt nobles, but they were still his family. Profoundly shaken, Gerard barely left his chambers in Caer Darrow until the island had to be evacuated due to the horde's encroachment on the area. When the island was resettled, Gerard had developed a burning hatred of the green-skinned brutes and used the family fortune that Cedric had granted him to pay for regular visits at Durnhold Keep to torment the Orcish captives. It was a late night back in his chambers when Gerard would meet the man who would change his fate irrevocably. He had just finished penning a letter to his brother when a knock sounded against the door. He opened it to find a frail old man dressed in a strange garb standing before him. He introduced himself as Kel'Thuzad. He said he had heard of Gerard's plight and wished to help him out of the dark place fate had dragged him to. The old man stated that he had secured the right to build a school of necromancy simply by offering Lord Barov the promise of immortality. Kel'Thuzad believed, as Gerard did, that those at the reins of power in Lordaeron were corrupt and were to be replaced, but most importantly, he had promised Gerard that his family could still be saved with the help of the Cult of the Damned. Gerard admitted that he felt some skepticism at first, but after he saw what Kel'Thuzad had done to the senior Barovs, he wholeheartedly believed that the world truly could be saved from the evil and the corrupt with the help of the Scourge. And when the New World Order battered at the gates of Stormwind, he would see his beloved family once more. Since that night, Gerard had studied the art of necromancy with fervor and gusto unmatched by any student, except Selendre. She was drawn to Scholomance by the promise of resurrecting her family after they had been ambushed and slaughtered by Murlocs in the Silver Pine Forest, and the two formed a bond around their shared hardships. They had agreed to secretly go against the school's restrictions on necromancy and create a weapon of war to rival even Kel'Thuzad's strongest and fastest abominations. For months, they had conducted grave-robbing missions across Lordaeron in their free time to gather enough bones and used blades for their project. And tonight was the night that the two necromancers would help bring about the end of an era of strife and repression. The common man would finally be free of the suffering brought about by their apparent betters. A volume of the Anarchist's Arcanist spellbook impacted Gerard's head with uncomfortable force. His thoughts returned to the present, in which he found his skeletal tutor angrily condemning his inattentiveness. He cursed under his breath and took pleasure in that the lesson was nearly over. Vectus lamented that he would soon have to tolerate an assistant teacher at his side, namely Marduk Blackpool, following the Battle of Darrowshire yesterday, and announced that the Death Knight would be opening up combat training to any cult students with an affinity for close-quarters combat rather than necromancy. Gerard took note of this, since he believed that after his work of art tonight, he would never need to learn more about raising the dead. The lesson ended, and the students left for their dorms. Kel'Thuzad knew that living members of the Scourge were an invaluable asset to the Lich King. Scholomance was therefore one of the very few Scourge bases that could provide basic human necessities and accommodations to its inhabitants. Gerard and Selendre walked behind the herd of students, broke off halfway to the dorms, and headed towards the cellar. Given Gerard's time here growing up, he was the only one to know about this hidden area of Scholomance, so this is where the pair gathered their materials for their upcoming creation. They had to light a torch to even be able to see their hands in front of their eyes. It was all laid out before them. Gerard could taste the rewards the Lich King would bestow on them for bending the entire Eastern Kingdoms to his will. He then decided to do what Jandis had jokingly suggested the night beforehand, and planted a kiss on Selendra's forehead. She smirked and declared herself ready to begin. Gerard started channeling unholy magic while Selendre drew ritual circles on the cobblestone floor, encircling the mound of bones and rusty weapons. Gerard could feel the power coursing through him, swelling up with volatile potency, but he forced it down with his will and began channeling the magic into the bones. It was then that he was suddenly lifted up in the air, being choked by dark tendrils and interrupting his channel. The tendrils turned him around as he gasped for air to face Dark Master Gandling. He worried about what he would do to Selendre and started apologizing to the headmaster of Scholomance, but he saw his companion slowly approaching Gandling, only to be congratulated by him. Gerard realized he had been betrayed. He would impale the traitorous wench on the bones they had collected together if he could, but all he could do was fight for his life in the grip of Gandling's dark magic. Gandling expressed his gratitude to Selendre for rooting out a potential threat to the cult of the damned, after which he said she would get what he had promised her. She would enter a special one-on-one tutelage with one of Kel'Thuzad's finest plague experts, Hygen the Unclean. She bowed and left the cellar without looking back. Gandling then turned to Gerard. With one hand he maintained the dark tendrils, with the other he started slowly extracting Gerard's soul. The pain was unlike anything he had ever experienced. With a deafening scream, his soul left his body, which the tendrils threw onto the pile of bones. Gandling then resumed Gerard's ritual. adding his soul into the now swirling mass of bones. In the cacophony of screeching metal, Gerard could feel his soul reattaching itself to a new corporeal form, his sanity depleting with every second spent in immeasurable agony. As the swirling mess subsided, Gerard was no longer Gerard. He couldn't feel, he couldn't breathe, he couldn't scream. He could only watch and suffer. His now scythe-like arms pierced the stone walls, so he hung from them as penitence for his actions. As a final punishment, Gandling declared his name to be Rattlegore, put out the torch in the cellar, and closed the door as he left. For what seemed like an eternity, Gerard waited in the cellar, experiencing his soul burning and losing all sanity that still remained. He clung on to the name his now most hated enemy had granted him to keep some form of purpose in this torture. Rattlegore.